insurance game has changed. Why has it changed?
COVID is what changed the game. When COVID hit, we had material shortages, we had labor shortages, which jacked prices up instantly, overnight. Capitalist society needs insurance. And if insurance is not sustainable and goes away, we've got real problems.
Hey, how's it going? It's Tim Brown, and this is the Hook Better Leads podcast. And today I've got Chris Zimmerman on from At Your Service Roofing. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Tim. How are you, buddy?
Doing very good. We're talking about how the roofing insurance game has changed. And, you know, we all know it, but I'm looking for a current 2024, 2025 update. I know that this is probably get watched a few times in the next 6 to 12 months. And I want to give people where we're at currently, though. And this has been happening for the last 5 years, though, right? Like this big change that we're going to talk about. Can you first give me a little bit of background about you and your company and what you're doing now with training as well?
Yeah, so I'm a contractor in Cincinnati, Ohio. I own At Your Service Roofing. We are a claim focused on the restoration side of the industry. And we do roofing, siding, gutters, power wash, soft wash, some other things, but we're dominantly a roofing company. We've been in business for 15 years. No, close to 20. 05. So we're getting real close to 20 years. But I've spent the last 14, 15 years really in the roofing space on the claim side, the restoration side of the industry. And unfortunately, that makes me a seasoned veteran at this point, which I'm still kind of getting used to. And so I've been focused on my business. And then about 2 years ago, a unknown guy that no one's ever heard of named John Cenac called me and said, Chris, I want to come take you out to dinner and pick your brain. And we just had a good night out, a good conversation. And then about a month later, I was registered to go to his event in Nashville. And he called me the night before and asked me to speak at it, which I appreciated all the prep time that he gave me. And then that just kind of blossomed into a friendship. I spent the next 6 months speaking at 15 or so of his events. And then basically I told him, hey, I don't really want to travel anymore. I feel like I've kind of paid my debt, so to speak. And so I'm out. And he said, well, what are you going to do? And I said, well, every time we go speak somewhere, there's five contractors maybe on average in each city that we go speak at that ask me to mentor them or train them or teach them or have some type of relationship. And I said, so I'm just going to start, creating this community, and I'll do it all by Zoom. And, that'll help me kind of get my mission accomplished faster, better. And he said, well, I really like that idea. Do you want to do it together? And I said, yeah, of course. And so that was really where Master Your Craft was born. And so this year's been nuts. The business is good. At Your Service runs pretty much without me. It doesn't need me. And so most of my time's been spent on the consulting side, doing a lot of private trainings, just teaching, one individual company. We do a lot of group classes all across the country. We probably did about 15 this year. And then the meat of what we do, of course, is the online private training group, which is all done by Zoom, which is 3 roughly 2-hour trainings every single month on different strategies, techniques, topics, things like that.
All right. And could you give us a little backstory? Obviously, roofers know this if you're in the roofing insurance game, but from your perspective on how the roofing insurance game has changed, why has it changed?
Why is a great question, Tim. And I don't think there's a lot of guys in the industry asking that question. So kudos to you. I have a very strong opinion on this. I feel that I want to be very clear that this is my opinion. However, I think it's rooted in fact, and I've checked with a lot of industry professionals, not just on the roofing side, more on the insurance company side. And it's very clear COVID is what changed the game. And so what happened is when COVID hit, we had material shortages, we had labor shortages, which jacked prices up instantly, overnight. And then coming out of COVID, we had this runaway inflation. And so the cost of construction, and not just roofing, but construction as a whole, has doubled, or even, it hasn't tripled, but it's probably more than doubled in 3-4 years. And so when I got in this industry, I mean, in 2010, the price per square in my market was like $250 a square. And right before COVID, which was 2019, 2020, we were at like 330 a square. So you're talking about a pretty incremental increase over 10 years. And then in the next 3 years, it more than doubled, and we're in the 650 range right now. So when that
Shouldn't we all
happens,
be excited and celebrating that our stuff is worth more now?
I mean, if you're running a good business and you know what you're doing, you make a margin. So the higher the price is, I get a percentage, a margin of that. That's more money. So every time they raise shingle prices, and all the guys online are pissing and moaning, I'm sitting there clapping like, yeah, raise them up. Like I don't care. But the problem is, it wasn't. Yeah, we're making more money. The issue is the insurance companies are now hemorrhaging money. And so, as a business owner, right, if my material cost doubles and my labor cost doubles, well, then I probably double my price, and that's business. But the insurance industry isn't like that. It's regulated, and I'm a free market guy, more of a libertarian politically. And so I believe that the real issue here is that the government is not allowing the free market to operate. And so the insurance companies go to the state regulation and they say, hey, listen, our all of a sudden they know what percentage from historical data are going to file claims. They know this X percent of our policies are going to file claims every year. And we know the average cost of our claim is X. So they multiply those two numbers and they've got a really pretty solid idea of what they're going to pay out. All of a sudden, almost instantly, in business terms, that cost per claim doubled. And so now they're going, whoa. So now they're reactionary. The other thing is, if you raise their rates, well, their policies are annual. And so if you take it on average, that means it takes 6 months. They're 6 months behind the curve when they go to raise rates. But then they go to raise rates and they go to the commission or the board or whatever, and they say, listen, our cost per claim has gone up X percent. We need to raise our rates 30%. And the state regulators go, no, that's way too high. That would be unpopular. That would cause political backlash, whatever the reasoning are. I don't know. But they go, you can raise them 8%. And I'm making numbers up here, but the point is that they're not allowed to raise their prices as much as they need to. Not want to, they need to. And so as a business owner, if my labor doubles and my material doubles and the government says I can only raise my price 20%, that's a real problem. And so I can sympathize with them. And so they're hemorrhaging money. They can't raise their rates fast enough or high enough, but the cost keeps going up and up and up. And so they're in real trouble.
Okay, let me cut into this argument real quick, just briefly, because obviously I got to play the devil's advocate for the average,
Sure.
the average roofer out here. I mean, the $1 to $2 billion on advertising that, like, for instance, one particular insurance company
Sure,
spends
Pat
per
Mahomes.
year.
You can afford
Like,
to
there's
pay
things
Pat
that they
Mahomes,
could.
but you can't afford to pay claims.
Yeah, that whole vibe. So, like, I just want to
Yep.
bring that to the conversation, just so that we can
Sure.
address it at least.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a reason why these big insurance companies are billion-dollar corporations and most of the roofers are $1 or $2 million companies. Like, for us to even the amount of arrogance it takes for a guy like me or you or an average roofing company owner to try to tell State Farm or Allstate or whatever insurance company how they should be running their business, I think is absurd. And
Okay.
like, you have to advertise. If you're selling insurance, it's like selling cologne. Like, how do you advertise cologne? Right? And that's why you get these ridiculous cologne commercials where they're like Johnny Depp's running around on a beach acting, you know what I mean? Like, how do you, and insurance is the same thing. Like, it's not fun. Nobody wants to buy it. How do you say our insurance is better than someone else's insurance? So the only way that you can do it is with branding. And so they take all that advertising money away and put it towards paying claims. They're going to lose market share. It's
But you're
pretty
not an
simple
insurance
economics.
company hater.
I'm sorry?
You're not an insurance company hater.
No, it's a game. We need them. We like, the humans, like people, a capitalist society needs insurance. And if insurance is not sustainable and goes away, we've got real problems. And so, like
kinda like
everything,
how
I think
I
they play a role.
I always talk a lot of smack about Google because I think that they're there's this giant behemoth, and sometimes they have some weird policies, but
Hmm.
I don't really want them to go away. I'm
Right.
not trying to
Well,
destroy Google. I'm just one little guy on the back of, I'm one little flea on the back of a giant dog. You know what I mean?
yep.
I don't actually want the dog to die.
That's right. And so that's kind of the same sentiment that I have. But I also, I understand how business works. I'm not, I'm no Elon Musk, but I did have a good education. I have a degree in economics. I understand business. And so insurance is a very simple business. Like you have to, basically it's risk assessment. You have to pay out a little bit less than you bring in. And most insurance companies operate on fairly thin margins. They've got reserves, they've got reinsurance and things like that. But either way, to me, I can sympathize with them because I can't imagine running a business where the government's telling me what I can and cannot do with my pricing.
Hmm.
Now, when it comes to a claim, I don't have sympathy. You wrote a contract, you took a gamble, you absorbed risk in lieu of payment. That risk has kind of come home to roost, so you need to pay up. And I get that it sucks right now. I get that you don't have the money, or it's tough to do, or there's stresses. But either way, the homeowner, the little guy, isn't going to be the one taking that brunt. I mean, not if I can
Hmm.
do anything about it. And so it's a black swan event, COVID, and you're going to have these ripples that affect markets. And it's surely not just the insurance. And I think that as um, if you have price of construction here and you have insurance premiums here, it just flew up. And this is just kind of creeping up. And once we kind of get back to an equilibrium, I think that we'll go back to at least a game that we can recognize. However, it's not going to go back completely. They're not going to get rid of ACV policies. They're not going to get rid of RPS, the roof payment schedule. They're not going to get rid of these high deductibles. They're not going to get rid of these exclusions. Like they've had to do that because they've been forced into it. People want to act like these insurance companies are evil entities. And I go, well, how come they weren't evil? Nobody thought that 5 years ago. Um, they're dealt a situation that's very, very difficult. Now, I do believe that there is flat out criminal behavior, systemic fraud, and some really nasty things going on. On both sides. Let's be. I'm
Hey,
probably
can I
more
ask you?
against. Yeah.
I keep asking the same question to different people. I haven't done it on a podcast yet, so if you tell me to edit this part out, I will.
All
But
right.
what percentage of insurance claims do you think are fraudulent by the average roofer?
Um. Let me say it this way. And I've said this a lot lately. So again, I want to talk about Cincinnati because that's a market that I know.
Hmm.
Um, We have not had, we had a storm, Hurricane Helene came through like last week. And yes, there's damage from that. We've got trees down, shingles in yards, like there's real. But before that, which is just a week ago, our last damaging storm was in March of 23, a year and a half ago. There's really barely a valid storm date to even file a claim. Um, Let me give you the short answer. In my market, I would say 2/3 of the roof claims are vandalism, is my guess. Truth be known. Yep.
Bro, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's
Okay,
incredibly
so
sad. It's
that's
something
not
that
great.
no, John and I have been fighting very hard against this. Whenever I stand up in front of a group of roofers, I'm very clear. Like, if I find out that your company is vandalizing, you will never get content from me. You will never receive training from me. I
Mm,
don't know. John and I have this mastermind group, Master Your Craft, right?
yeah.
And I'm not aware of any training in the space or really any training anywhere in any industry where there's a paywall where like we make it hard for you to buy. So if you
Yeah.
want to buy Master Your Craft training, you have to apply. When you
Hmm.
apply, you can't even see our library. You see nothing. Once you apply, we call your manufacturer rep, we call your supplier rep, we look at your reviews, your Facebook, we ask around industry professionals. We find on your Facebook page who you're Facebook friends with, and we do a lot of digging. before we approve you. And we actually decline about 25 to 33% of our people that want to pay us. They're going, here, take my money. I want your content. And we go, no. And they go, why not? And we go, well, your values don't really fit with our values. We just don't think it's a good fit. And what we're really saying is we're under the belief that you guys are vandalizing roofs fairly systemically, and we're not going to give you any aid in doing that.
Can I ask the people watching this, if you're watching this right now, will you comment below maybe what market you're in and what percentage you think there may be vandalism going on the average roof claim? Just curious. I would love it if some people did answer that. It would help. I think if that's true, and if there's any markets like that, but that's that much, then we have to talk about it as a roofing industry. Like, and I'm not trying to be high and mighty. It's not going to be me because I'm just a hanger on to this industry. But I certainly care about the modernization of the industry, and I certainly care that I want to be working with the companies that are doing things the right way. Realistically, I want to do that. I don't know how to check, but I would like it to be that.
You text John or I and ask us, and we can pretty much tell you.
Yeah, that's crazy.
We did a training in Columbus, Ohio, and a week later, a video comes out, and a roofer is in the living room meeting with a homeowner, and he looks across the street, through the window of the home, and sees 4 people on the house across the street from them. There's 2 on the ground and 2 on the roof, and he films them, and it's clear as day what they're doing. I mean, it is incredibly clear. They're creasing shingles. You see them, break the bond. You see them bend it back, brush it off, take a piece of chalk, mark it. And I don't want to get into the specifics of that, but I feel very confident that all 4 people knew. Obviously, the 2 on the roof knew. The 2 on the ground knew as well. And then the guy turns around, and you can see his branded hoodie, and I recognize it from the class in Columbus. And it's hard. It honestly is heartbreaking. John and I really, really struggle on how we can. How can you help contractors protect homeowners, right? Like our mission statement is we want to build. Master Your Craft is about building a community of like-minded contractors committed to protecting homeowners and running a good, clean business. And how do you do that? I mean, how do you segment the good ones from the bad ones?
So we're about to put a video out, hopefully with John. I think John's going to be part of it, on how to get a State Farm roof approved. And, I was thinking about making a joke, like going out there, like with the sock and the golf ball, and be like, well, how do you do it? But it's too real. It's too real. Like, it's supposed to be a joke.
Probably 10 claims this year where usually it's the insurance agent calls me and goes, Chris, I've got a roof I need you to go look at. I said, okay, what, the tree fall, the wind damage? No, they filed a claim with another roofer, and they knocked on their door, and they gave them this song and dance. And don't get me wrong, my company, we knock doors. Like, there's no problem with door knocking. I think it's still the best lead gen source. But we go out there and we look at the roof, and, nobody can really be sure. There's really no way to prove it. But you've been doing this long enough, and you know enough, it becomes 9 times out of 10, you can pretty definitively say yes or no. And so, what we do a lot of time is we mark up the roof, we take pictures of all the things that we see, and then we get down to the homeowner and we show them the evidence. And then they go, well, so you're saying that they did this? And I said, well, I don't really want to say I'm just showing you what I've seen and the evidence. What do you think? And they go, well, it looks pretty clear that like they did this. And I go, it looks pretty clear to me too, And so we don't have that many insurance agents and that many. So if we're getting 10 of those, I mean, I don't know. It's rampant in certain markets for sure.
Is there not enough consequences? Like, okay, don't do this, guys. First of all, just please don't. But second of all,
I can hear my attorney right now in my ear going, Chris, this is not what you want to be talking about today.
I know. I'm so sorry. I wasn't.
There's not. No,
I didn't want to talk about this either. But I think I guess my question is, like, wouldn't there be natural consequences for these folks? I would think there would be natural consequences.
If you truly believe in what you're doing and you want to be the best version of yourself and you want to build a great organization, there's no other place to do that besides the Roofing Academy.
Yeah, there are. Unfortunately, they're not the consequences that do anything, I think. So, one, I'll tell you a story. This was 8 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever. There's an independent adjuster who I've known, and we've worked together enough where we have a good relationship. And he goes, Chris, I want to show you this video. So he gets to an adjuster appointment, and he's early. He's in an unmarked vehicle because he's an IA. He parks 4 houses down the street on the street, and he's doing his paperwork. And all of a sudden, a truck pulls in, ladder goes up on the roof, and 2 guys scurry up on the roof, and there's just shingles coming off the roof. So he's got the whole thing on video. So he shows it to me, and I go, "Oh my God, that's wild! Thank God you've got this video. Like, boom, you got these guys." He goes, "Nope." I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, I immediately called my manager, sent it to my manager. And the manager said, you need to delete that video and never speak of it again." I said, what are you talking about? You've got video evidence. And, I don't know why. Maybe that manager didn't want the paperwork and the headache. But there have been cases in the past where they've gone after guys and they said, well, we weren't tearing off shingles. Those were already damaged. They were weak, right? They've been creased and they're a hazard. If I step on them and it tears, I'm going to fall off this roof. So I was just removing all of these safety hazards, these footfalls. There's been times where roofing companies have countersued for libel and defamation or whatever the legal terms are. I'm no attorney, I'm no licensed adjuster, and they've won. And so it's incredibly difficult to prove. Most juries, if it's the mom and pop contractor versus the big Goliath insurance company, and so I just don't think, I think the deck is stacked against the insurance companies when it comes to proving that stuff.
Let's transition this conversation. I want to get
Good.
into what specifically has changed in the insurance game. I know that you talked to me about the life cycle. So before
Sure.
COVID, you were saying it was like Monday, you file a claim, and by Friday you're putting on a roof.
I mean, I can knock on the door on Monday. You meet with the homeowner, they call the claim in. The adjuster's out there Wednesday. He provides you on site on Wednesday with an estimate and the first check to the homeowner printed out in his truck. We go in, we pick out shingle colors, sign a contract. We're there Friday to build the roof. That was, that was running and gunning, and that was pretty. That's the way it was. I mean, that was from 2010 to 2020. That's just the way it worked. And nobody was complaining about insurance then and what they were spending on advertising and paying athletes and things like that. And then 2020 hits and things go bonkers. And so you start getting, them sloping roofs or doing repairs. And at first you're like, what? Like, what do you mean? What's going on? Like, where's this coming from? And then by 21, it was just systemic, like everything, everything's a repair. If it's a hail damage claim, then it's magnificently, what we call magnetic hail, where the hail comes down and just right to the metals and magically doesn't touch the shingles. It just hits the box vents and the valley metals. If it's wind damage, it's automatically a repair. And guys went from getting 80, 90, 95% of the roofs approved on site on the spot to getting the opposite, 10% approved on spot, 20%, something like that. And then the game's just gotten progressively harder. Before there was a time when you didn't really supplement. Supplementing meant like hanging out with the adjuster in his van and being like, hey, those gutter guards are actually, those are kind of helmets. Those are real premium gutter guards. Can you make sure? Oh, and don't forget like the ice and water guard, or don't forget that was supplementing. Now supplementing is so convoluted and difficult that most contractors can't even do it, and they have to hire a third-party supplement company to do it. And those guys don't really do a great job because it's incredibly difficult, and they've got to train up enough people to handle the volume of all these contractors. Production has changed. The old game, like it was pretty much just, run the crew out there and slap some stuff on. Roofing companies have gotten a lot more sophisticated. It's a lot more competitive. And so now, when we go out, 15 years ago, when we put a roof on, we had like 6 pictures in the file. Right now, just production, if we build a roof, we're going to have about 300 pictures in our file just from production. The old game, your entire file maybe had 30, 40, 50 pictures. The new game, if we go through an insurance claim, you're talking about an initial inspection, the meeting with the adjuster, possibly some like color match and repairability, and then you've got the production photos. For our company, you're talking a minimum 600, usually closer to like 800 to 1,000 pictures in a file. So everything's changed, and unfortunately, human nature, people don't like change, and so they resist it. There's a lot of owners. There's 2 real problematic owners in the industry right now. There's the ostrich, the guy with the head in the sand that just goes, no, like, this is a blip, or we're just not doing it well enough. We need to fight harder. We need to work harder. We need to do more. And they don't want to change anything that they're doing. They just want the results to be improved. And then the other problematic owner is kind of what I call the ivory tower owner. Who's built a pretty good size company, and now he's not boots on the ground. He's not in the day-to-day. He's kind of sitting in his ivory tower, and he's watching all the numbers go down, and his team is telling him, we need training, we need supplementing, we need this, we need these other pieces and parts. And that owner is really looking at them and just saying, no, you guys are just lazy, you're incompetent, work harder, do more, file more claims, hire more salespeople. And John and I have been trying to stem that tide for some time now. Like that's not going to cut it in the new game.
And you were kind of saying like you're unusual because you actually still run a roofing company, but a lot of these, just coaches, there's a lot of coaches out there that kind of have the old game in mind, like that their training might be based on this old game. And
oh yeah. Yeah.
when you think about, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I want to be very clear that I'm not speaking bad about it. I say every time I go and speak at a training, whether it's a public, big group class or private training, my attitude is the worst training on the market is still worth it. If you're willing to go there with an open mind, actually take notes and listen, and then actually implement some things, you're going to get your ROI. Like the worst training out there is still relevant. It's still pretty good. It's better than nothing. That being said, there's a lot of
bad seminars, Chris.
I've
been to some bad stuff.
I've been at some of those with you. You know what I mean? And not, I mean, like we were both there, right? Like,
yeah.
And I've gone to a lot of them, and I do feel that way. There are a lot of guys that got out of the roofing game and into the consulting, coaching, training game before COVID during the old game. And when the industry changes, they don't really see it very quickly, and they certainly don't adapt to it because they're not doing it. And so one thing that has been really nice for really John and I and what we do at Master Your Craft is the fact that I own and operate a roofing company. I'm in the day-to-day. And again, like I said, like the business can run without me, but I'm still here. There's not a day that goes by that I'm not in talking with my team, unless I'm out of town, doing the teaching and the training. I'm here in the office, and so I see these changes instantly. Like I'm on the front lines, and so that gives me a really unique perspective versus a lot of the other trainers and coaches and things like that. The beauty of it too is that when John and I develop a new strategy, we can test it. I don't know many guys that can do that. They just go, hey, like maybe try this. Where everything that we bring out, we've tested inside of my company. It gets beta tested here. And then once we feel like we've got something, then we've got a number of contractors across the country that we're close with. And that number is very small. I mean, we're close with a lot of them, but the ones that we trust to like test stuff out. And so by the time we bring that stuff to the group, to the public, to the audience, it's vetted, it's tested, I don't want to say flawless, but it's strong, it works, like there's no doubts about it. And so I hear a lot of people, the comments that they make on Facebook, and I go, God, that's the old game. There's one,
Yeah.
You got to get your homeowner really mad and fired up and pissed off, and then have them call the insurance company and raise hell.
Mm.
That probably worked, back in the day. But I've asked this question to hundreds, if not thousands, of contractors, and I go, "Have you ever heard this?" And they go, "Oh yeah." And I go, Is that how you guys do it?" And they go, "Well, yeah, we used to." I go, "Does that work?" And they go, "Not anymore." And I go, "Exactly.
Mm.
That's not the way it works anymore." And so there's just so many strategies that I hear out there, and they sound good. They're very theoretical. They're not so practical. And in theory, they sound good, but in the new game, they just don't work.
Well, you'd mentioned about the coaches thing. I think we can point at some obvious like whack coaches out there. I mean, like I'm not gonna say names, but like classic villains or whatever in the industry.
I
Um,
think I got you.
yeah,
Yeah.
we got whatever, but it's
Right.
not like I do think it does do a little bit of disservice to the industry where everyone just is mad at coaches all the time. Hey, I'll tell you my interest in this is that I like coaches because they refer us business. You can just know that up front that that's how I feel. But I also think other industries where they're not so mad at coaches, I think that sometimes it shuts off your valve to knowledge, right? Like, I think we want to keep that line of like learning open. And some of the people, this is going to be too real. Some of the people leading the pack with the pitchforks are not successful business owners.
Well, that's kind of where I was going. Is that you said in our industry, it's kind of unique where people are tearing down the coaches and trainers.
Mhm.
And personally, I don't see that as much. I do hear it, but either way, but our industry is also very unique in that there's no barrier to entry. So most other industries, the owner of the company has a business background, has extensive experience, has an education, has whatever.
Mhm.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not talking bad about the industry. This is one of my favorite things about the industry, is that it provides opportunity, a second chance, a third chance, a fourth chance for so many people. And I think it's really, really good. And I love that about the roofing industry. But, there's a lot of guys um, that they put together some salespeople and the storm rolls through and they make a little bit of money and they think they're Elon Musk. And it's just not the case. Like, I'm a, sorry. I don't know if you can tell
That's
I'm
good, dude.
at risk of, I don't know if you can even see that. I'm a Michigan man.
All right. All right.
And Jim Harbaugh had a quote about Ryan Day, the head coach at Ohio State, when he took over for Urban Meyer. And he said, some guys wake up on third and think they hit a triple. And I think
Mm.
that there's a tremendous amount of roof owners in the roofing space who they're standing on third and they think they hit a triple. And if you really ask them, they're not sure how they got there. And so there's also a tremendous amount of pride in the industry. You've got a lot of that kind of machismo,
Mhm.
tough guy, whatever persona, and they don't want help. And I think the reason they don't want the training is because they don't want to look foolish if the training doesn't work. They don't want to
Mm.
look like a sucker who paid for
Mm.
something that didn't, or then it came out later that guy's a fraud or that guy's or whatever. That's just
Oh,
my,
also, if they were training and then the coaches or the people training contradicted, because if they've been training their people themselves, they might feel
Mhm.
bad if it
Oh yeah, this guy
contradicts.
says, I've been telling you to do it this way. And this guy's like, no, that's a terrible way to do it this way.
Yeah.
And immediately that guy's a wall's going to go up and you know what I mean? Where there are guys out there with some humility that go, oh man, that's the way I was doing it. I feel stupid. Hey, listen, that guy's
Mhm.
really smart. So if he says different, go do that. And John and I, every time we've ever stood in front of an audience and do training, we're very careful to say, listen, if we tell you to do something and it's contrary to what you do and what you do is successful, keep doing it. Like, don't stop doing
Mhm.
something that's working. And to that point, John and I operate very, very differently. Like, if we had the identical claim and we were both running that claim, so to speak, we're gonna go about that very, very differently. And I'm gonna
Mhm.
tell you that I think John's method is awesome. but my method works for me. And he would say vice versa. And so, you know, pride is a downfall of most men. And I think that it's really, really rampant in the industry. And most of our issues that this industry faces can probably be boiled back down to pride.
And you talked to me about how one of the ways that the old game might be changing and it's the new game of like people didn't think that there needed to be training back in the day and they were still successful and they're doing fine, but the new game might include you were talking about 10 to 20 hours of training, which is like basically if you ever were in master your craft, like recognizing up front, that's a lot of time, man. Like, and I know that you, like, how much training do you guys do a month?
RoofCon is definitely the best conference I've ever attended, and I've been to several. We go to several every single year.
I bought the tickets. I said, we're going.
This year they broke 5,000 tickets, so it's growing bigger and bigger every single year. If you're not here, I don't know where you're at.
Definitely coming back 2024. See you then.
RoofCon, the #1 conference for the roofing and solar community, is coming back to Orlando, October 23rd through 25th, 2024. Get your tickets today at roofcon.com.
So inside the private training group, there's 3 trainings a month, and each are about 2 hours. So you've got about 6 hours of fresh content every single month on basically 3 different topics or strategies or whatever. But you know, that's not it. It's not like you watch 2 hours of video and magically that problem's solved. I mean, you still have to go do it. You have to implement it. You got to build the templates. And then granted, we a lot of those things that we can kind of do for you or we help you with those things. But you know, what John and I have learned is that if you give some, what we always talk about in Mastercraft is like the give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach a man to fish, feed him for a lifetime. So when somebody brings me their issue, I can probably solve that issue for you pretty quickly, but you don't understand how I got there. And so when that issue happens again, you don't know what to do and you got to come back to me. I don't have that kind of time and you don't have that kind of money. Meaning the average roofer, right? They don't want to pay me for that every single time. Yeah. And so what I would much rather do is teach you how to fish. And so most of what we do in Master Your Craft is teach core principles and concepts, foundational stuff. And so I tell guys, if you learn these things and implement these things and actually put in the work, then when the industry pivots and changes, you don't even need us. Like you can develop your own new strategies. But most of the people in this industry are so poorly trained. And by that, I mean, they're not trained, right? Like the standard in the industry by far is you bring a sales rep on, you go, hey, here's my best sales guy, shadow him for a week. And then it's just go out and do it, sink or swim. And that's what most of the industry looks like. And if that's still your model, again, John and I all the time, master your craft or get left behind. Like the industry's changing. The things that work don't work any longer. The models that were there and work don't work any longer. It's just not sustainable. And so you can fight against it and you're going to beat your head against the wall and kind of wear yourself down until you're emotionally spent and you're cash flowed right out of the game. Or you've got to figure it out. Now, if you want to figure it out and you want to thrive, not just survive, you either have to have the confidence in yourself and the ability to figure it out on your own, or you got to hire people that are smarter than you or more experienced than you that know what they're doing. And that's kind of what Master Your Craft is guys are going, listen, yes, I'll gladly pay $1,000 a month to get this content, to have this network, to have access to not just John and I, but the others in the group. And the guys, when you see these posts on the Facebook pages, right, of, well, the insurance, somebody said this, what do I do next? Or, hey, they're telling me this. I know I'm supposed to use this strategy, but what does that look like? And, all of these things, the guys that in Master Your Craft just kind of shake our head and go, man, I want to help you, but it would take me 4 hours for me to really break that down for you. Like the issues today are way too complex to just be solved in the comment section of a Facebook post or a quick phone call. But I can tell you that the guys that are in Master Your Craft, they blow by those issues with ease. Like they're not held back by those at all. They're moving forward and trucking.
Did we talk about claim rate and how that's changed? Because you're saying like at one point it was damn near 100%, and now.
Yeah, I mean, pre-COVID, if I went out to an adjuster and I got a repair or they sloped the roof, it was like shocking. It was like, what did I do wrong? I don't like, am I in the twilight zone? What's going on here? And now that's the clear expectation. I mean, if you're working a really sweet hail event, then yeah, things are going to get bought. They're destroyed. Like, I get it. But if you're working smaller hail or you're working wind, I think if you're smart, you're just really planning on getting coverage extended. Like, you're just hoping that they pay for some repairs. We had a claim with, well, a large carrier.
Yeah, sure.
And we went out and met the adjuster, and they approved it on site, wrote the estimate. And my guy came back in, and he was kind of like, is it a trap? Like, are they tricking us? And I was like, tell me again what happened. And we go through it, and I'm like, it's like, that was like literally mind blowing. Like, you don't even know, like, people are texting each other, like, get a load of this. That's how rare it is,
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I mean, not funny, but it sucks.
No, it's sad.
Yeah, it's really sad.
Yeah.
But okay. So, God, I'm 300 episodes into a roofing podcast, and I don't know what you mean when you say slope the roof. I'm assuming it's just that they took the slope of the roof because they're going to give the homeowner less money.
It's a partial, like, let's just say you've got a very simple roof front and back. Like, they're going to pay for the front, but they're not going to pay for the back.
Okay.
So they're paying for
Got you.
slopes, which is,
Okay.
if you know what you're doing, is honestly quite absurd for many reasons. It's not.
Yeah, because it's like you can't tear off one side of the roof and, okay, but yeah,
Well, I mean,
there is ways to do that,
yeah.
right?
No, you can
There's
do
ways to do
that 100%. And the manufacturers have bulletins that tell you how to do it. The problem, I mean, there's a lot of problems. One, I think for me, the principle, the basis of insurance is the principle of indemnification, to be made whole, to be brought back to pre-loss condition. And replacing one half of the roof is not pre-loss condition. That's not being made whole. That's being made half. And so that's wrong. In order to do just one slope of a roof, you always have to affect other slopes. Now, maybe you just repair those other areas that are affected, but if the shingles don't match in some states, if they're not compatible, like the most roofers don't understand codes. And if you do understand codes, then you understand that it's really not, it's incredibly rare that you can do a slope replacement and not replace the other slopes and have it done to code. It's incredibly rare.
So some of this is like almost dependent occasionally on like roofers just not knowing the codes or like in some cases, I mean, I'm sure that some people just don't know to ask for it and I know that there's enough other stuff going on in the industry that it's not like we can cry foul, like that's the thing. That is the thing about, like, if I think about roofing Facebook and just the attitude sometimes is like a little bit cry foul, but there's other stuff going on. So let's like be honest about, like, at least you can be somewhat honest.
Yeah. They're crying foul, but that's because they don't want to take the time and effort to get trained up. If they spent the time and the money and put in the work, then they wouldn't have those problems. And so, and don't get me wrong, I'm not, I don't want to sound like I'm chastising people. Like, these are my people, right? Like, I live and then breathe in this industry. Every waking moment is spent on this industry. But the truth is still the truth. Like, and this is, again, something we say all the time. Like, I'm not pro insurance. I'm not pro homeowner or anti whatever. I'm pro truth. I want to find objective truth. My opinions don't matter. The adjuster's opinions don't matter. The homeowner's opinions don't really matter. I mean, they do on a customer service level, but the bottom line is what's the truth of this situation? What's required by code? What's required to return to pre-loss condition? What's in the policy? And again, I don't get into policy. I'm not an adjuster and attorney, so I don't read policy. I don't get into that, but the adjusters do. That's their job, to understand the policy. And so when they're crying foul, what they're really saying is, this used to be easy and now it's hard and I'm mad. And I get it. I can sympathize with it, but I also know that like I'm not having a problem. Like we're thriving. I know plenty of roofers in the space that are thriving. I know that virtually everybody that's in Master Your Craft is thriving. So the answers are out there. If you don't want to spend the time and energy to look for them and to put in the work, then yeah, you're gonna have a tough time. So I try to have a real understanding of both sides of the story, kind of empathize and sympathize with both sides. But the truth is almost always in the middle there, and the truth is out there. Just there's not many people looking for it.
I'm looking for it, for better or worse. And I really do appreciate you being on, Chris. Actually, I think that we're advocating for the ethical roofer, and you're advocating for that, right? Like you're advocating for people doing it the right way, I think.
Yeah, doing it the right way is definitely yeah. My mission. There's a book. I don't know if you read Simon Sinek at all, but there's a book he wrote called Start with Why, and that book changed my life. And in that book, he basically, you got to have a just cause. You got to know what your why is. And I wrestled with that question for about 6 months. And because I had to be honest with myself, and I go, well, I guess it's because I make more money here than I make other places. Like, and that's not a very good why. And so then I started, I wrestled with that for a long time, and I realized that my why I really do it. I had a guy come to me and goes, Chris, you're so good at working claims. Why are you messing around with these little $15,000, $20,000 residentials? Why don't you go after the big boys? And I go, well, one, I don't get any joy from that. Like, I'm just helping a corporation save some money. Whereas when I help a residential claim, I'm helping a David versus a Goliath. I'm helping somebody, that needs my help. And I also said, well, if I only do commercial claims, I'm going to do 10 of them a year, large loss versus 400 or 500. And the reason I'm so good at these is because I do 400 or 500 of them a year. But getting back to doing doing things the right way. My mission is to protect homeowners. I feel that homeowners are oftentimes preyed upon by their insurance companies, and they're preyed upon by unscrupulous contractors. And homeowners are really kind of babe in the woods. They don't know that they're being preyed upon. I mean, they're like this animal that's out there in the field, just going about their day, looking for some food and enjoying their day. And there's these hawks that are circling, right? And so my mission is to protect homeowners from those two things. And it's difficult because they don't even know they're being preyed upon. And so they don't necessarily want the protection or understand that they need it. And that's okay. And so the reason why I do Master Your Craft and the reason why I do all the consulting is that I can realistically only protect about 400 or 500, maybe 1,000 homeowners in Cincinnati. That's the best that I can reach with my company. But if I go out there and I train contractors all across the country on how to do things the right way and on how to protect homeowners, then I can protect tens of thousands of them a year. And ultimately, that's why I do the consulting. Because trust me, it's fun getting to know people. I'm a social person, but it's running. We're on the road a lot. I'm away from my family. I've got 4 kids. I've got a wife. It's tough. But I see what's happening, and I do think that we are starting to finally make a dent in the industry as a whole. And it's funny, in 2.5 weeks, is RoofCon. And I'm very excited. I've got the honor of being a keynote speaker.
Amazing, dude.
Yeah. And I'm literally, that's exactly what I'm doing my presentation on is basically doing the right things and why the industry desperately needs it. Our customers desperately need it. It needs, like, the balance has to be restored in the industry. And it's not going to happen unless there's a lot of like-minded contractors that want to do things the right way, protect homeowners and run a good, clean business. And if you do, there's a lot of money to be made. So yeah.
Absolutely. And by the way, we'll see you there. We're not doing anything crazy this year at RoofCon. Last
No
year
tattoos.
we did We did tattoos. This year we're just giving away a Yeti. So we're chilling out a little bit. We were just, I don't know, we were having fun. We did some crazy stuff. I'm glad we did. We have all the coolest neighbor. We have a ton of really cool companies around us because they probably all thought we were going to do something crazy again. So like a very cool group of companies around us.
Nice.
Like Roofle and Catchall and some other ones.
Nice.
But sir, it was really nice to have you on. Thank you so much. The podcast is put on by hookagency.com, Hook Agency all over social media. Chris, where can they check you guys out?
I mean, the best thing to do if you want information about Master Your Craft is the website, which is masteryourcraftgroup.com. You can search Master Your Craft on Facebook. You're going to find a lot of good resource there. It's got a good community. It hasn't been watered down yet, like a lot of the other Facebook groups. And so you can find us there. You'll see a picture of John and I right on the cover page. Of course, if you are in Cincinnati and you need some help on an insurance claim, roofing, siding, gutters, stuff like that, you can check At Your Service Roofing out at aysroofing.com.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you, man.
Absolutely, Tim. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yep. Bye.